Hello, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm Adam Schaefer from Phelps United. I'm the president of the company, and you're here today live with us as we're doing a LinkedIn Live to talk about a really interesting topic, and that is thriving through the Q4 holiday season or the 2023 holiday shopping season. It's a really busy time of the year, holiday season always is, and we're going to take it a little differently today and talk about logistics, believe it or not, and then we'll work our way into more of promotional strategies. With us today, I want to introduce, and I'll hand it over to them to introduce themselves. Vince, over to you, and then over to Sunny after that.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the LinkedIn Live. I'm Vince Lombard. I've been with Phelps United for 2.5 years. Prior to joining Phelps United, have a long history of selling technology products and e-commerce through many different e-commerce marketplaces.
Sunny?
Yes, hi. Thanks for joining us. My name is Sunny Pacho. I have been with Phelps United for a little over 6 years now. I'm the warehouse manager here, and I have been managing warehouses my entire career. So I'm very happy to be here with everybody today.
And we're happy to have you with us because an area we don't really talk about that much when we've talked about the business, and that's specifically the Amazon business, is we haven't really talked about logistics from the warehouse to Amazon and all that goes into it. So I thought, let's talk about that because if you're talking about a busy time of year, obviously Black Friday and Cyber Monday are the Super Bowl for all e-commerce players and all retail players. That is the time where the business goes up maybe 200% from an average day. And usually the days coming up to and then thereafter, or probably 10 to 20%, maybe sometimes more higher than an average day. So it's a very busy time of year. And many of the Amazon sellers rely on Amazon to ship their products. They pick back and ship it from FBA. But it's got to start somewhere. So many times it starts from overseas and containers come in and they land somewhere in the US and somebody's got to break them down and organize them and ship them up properly to Amazon. And you need to leave yourself enough time for that, especially during the holidays. So it might actually even be late in the game to be talking about this. But Sunny, what have you been what have you been seeing with regard to the time it takes to get a package in or products in, say a truck, pallets of stuff, turning that around, getting Amazon to pick it up and getting it up to FBA? What's been the timing these days?
Well, it really depends on what exactly the product is. I mean, obviously, there's some stuff that comes in that we can turn around rather quickly. If it's retail packaging, we verify quantities, we verify the part numbers, we get it received into our system, and then we try to turn it around as quickly as possible on our end. Now, there is a process to getting the product prepped and ready for Amazon FBA. A lot of times we have to apply Amazon SKUs to product. So depending on the quantity of the product, we usually will have this done within a 24 to 48 hour SLA. On top of that, we have to schedule everything online through Amazon's portal, Seller Central. And from there, it really depends on how quickly Amazon assigns these truckloads, if it is a truckload, on pallets, and they dictate who the freight carrier is. But typically, I mean, they've gotten a lot better and a lot quicker with assigning these loads to a specific carrier. So the turnaround is usually anywhere between 1 to 3 days. Once we have it all received into our system, everything's available to ship. Some internal transfers that need to be done to ensure our inventory is accurate. But when it comes to parcel product, individual boxes, we typically turn that around sometimes within the same day, but no more than 48 hours.
And it's faster. So you got this truckload. So you have to prepare that, and you'll book the Amazon truck through their Seller Central portal,
Correct.
and that could take a couple of days. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But if
Yes.
you do something like less than truckload or UPS or something that you're going to ship up to Amazon's FBA fulfillment centers, it's a faster process.
Completely faster. I mean, for UPS ground, we can have labels applied and ready. Sometimes, as I mentioned, same day, if not at the very most, the very next day, and it gets put on a truck and it gets put en route. And typically with the UPS ground, a lot of the facilities that it gets assigned are local facilities, so which helps us get the product up there quicker to be received on their end.
What are some of the no-nos when you're packing stuff and shipping them up to Amazon? Like I've heard horrible horror stories where companies have gotten fined or products just don't get received because they're not stickered right. Like what are some of the things you run into?
Well, I mean, Amazon has their guidelines that we have to follow with every package that goes out. They have limitations on box dimensions, they have limitations on weight. So anytime we do not meet these guidelines or we go above these limitations that they have set, that causes a delay all the way around for them receiving it, us getting our product listed. So we have to ensure that we're following these guidelines on a day-to-day basis. Same thing with freights. Uh, we have to schedule a certain amount of pallets for specific shipments. We have to have a certain height of each pallet. Same thing with an individual box. It can only be so much in diameter. So there's these little things that we have to be privy to in order to ensure that our product gets up there in a timely fashion.
So your advice is really make sure you understand the rules of engagement with Amazon because you don't want to get a penalty from them, which could cost you money, but also not have your products received by them and available for sale. So you got to
Exactly.
understand the cartoning rules, the pallet rules, the weight rules, and you have to know how to wrap this stuff up properly so they could receive it properly. Like it's like a football game where you got to hand it off 100% or they're going to fumble.
Correct. Yes. And I mean, for us to make things a little more transparent on our end, we have these guidelines posted up in various locations in the warehouse. So if there's any questions, any confusion, my team can easily access these guidelines and understand that they're there for a reason. So
Yeah, and you might ask yourself, so why are we in such a panic to get stuff up to Amazon, to FBA? I mean, it might seem like pretty, some people might get it. Some people might say, why don't you just ship it yourself? Well, you can, but if you want to be prime and you want your products to be prime and be shipped and be delivered in 1 to 2 days, you really do want them up at Amazon. And really, from our experience and most others' experience, the freight rates from Amazon are just so much better than most people could ever get. I see sometimes USPS maybe on very, very light things, but in general, if you're shipping product from your call it your store or from Amazon to an end user, having it up at their many FBA shipping locations is just much faster. You get the Prime badge, which you definitely want. Without the Prime badge, you're definitely going to have lower sales, especially during the holidays because people want it fast, fast, fast,
of course,
and it's cheaper than you trying to do it yourself. But say it is, November 13th, and we're getting really close to Black Friday, which is coming up. You might not have time to get your product up to Amazon. So if your supplier is late getting product in, if you were late ordering it, it, it happens. It happens to everybody. Sometimes there's product shortages, sometimes there's delivery delays. One thing we do is we ship directly to the end users through our Amazon store, and we ship what we call FBM, fulfillment by merchant. Now, it's important that you have that ability. If you don't have that ability, it's an incredibly good backup. So we at our company have the ability to ship FBM, and we do so. And you'll see that our volume really does pick up because products are coming in on a regular basis. We're shipping them up to Amazon, but we're making sure that we're never out of stock. So Sonny, your team is responsible not just for shipping up to Amazon, but to shipping to end users too. So tell us a little bit more about that because you do have FBM, and then we have that special medallion, which is called Seller Fulfilled Prime, which is called SFP, and that lets us ship Prime from our own warehouse. So, try to maybe explain just the basics of pick pack shipping directly to end user.
sure, yeah. Um, as you mentioned, we try to focus on the prime orders first to make sure those get out in a timely fashion. I mean, obviously, as a customer, and I've purchased hundreds of items on Amazon, and if I'm buying Prime, I expect it to get shipped in a very prompt fashion. So we focus on the Prime orders first, and when the orders come through in our system, obviously the orders get printed and they get handed off to our pickers. that go through. So there is a process on our end that has to be done. It has to get picked accordingly and signed off. It gets brought over to our shipping department, where we have a second person that actually will QC the product, ensure that the product is correct. First of all, make sure that the part number is correct, quantities are correct, and then we have a third person that will go through and package these items, whether it be a single item, master pack items. Regardless of what is ordered, we have to ensure the order is correct first and foremost. And
And why that's really important. I mean, it sounds like a lot of extra work, but when you're shipping fulfilled by merchant, FBM, you're responsible for everything. So if
correct,
anything goes wrong with that order, it comes back and penalizes the account or the store that we're shipping it from. And you don't want to get bad marks. You don't want to get bad reviews. So Sonny and his team go through extraordinary lengths to make sure that everything is accurate when it leaves our building. Now, when you're shipping FBA, that's Amazon's responsibility, and they do a reasonably good job at it, and things do happen. But when we're doing it, we are 100% responsible for that product getting to that end user.
correct, yes. And to go back to FBA fulfillment, we also we practice the same way we do with FBM. We want to make sure we're sending product that is ordered on our end through Amazon up to Amazon, and it's accurate. Yes, as you mentioned, it can get there and things happen. It doesn't get received, things get lost. But Amazon will take care of that when it's on our end and we're shipping FBM. Yes, being accurate is our number one goal, making sure that everything gets picked, packed, and shipped accordingly.
And during the holiday period, are you doing like are you adding more people or are you doing more shifts? How does it work? Because there's also the clock, and the clock is on all the time. You got to
Yes.
make sure that not just the stuff that we're shipping up to Amazon, but obviously the stuff that we're shipping to end users. It you have a limited amount of time, and you got to make that time, or again, you're going to get penalties on your account.
Right. Every order that comes through, it tells us there's a ship by date. We try to meet that date in advance. Obviously, we don't want to ship anything late. As you mentioned, we get penalized, our metrics get affected. So we want to avoid that at all costs. To help with the overload, we do hire some seasonal help, some temporary workers that will come in. I've implemented a second shift during this holiday time to kind of help with our the workload that kind of flows from first shift to second shift. That way, there's a continuous flow of orders coming in, orders going out. So having some extra bodies during the season is definitely necessary for us to succeed.
And you have staff on Saturdays too, right? I thought.
Exactly. Yes. Amazon doesn't stop. There's orders that come through that we have to ship on Saturdays, especially Prime. So I have a staff on Saturdays ready to go as well.
So, and I want to make sure that I'm explaining this right. So we talked about FBA, and so Sonny and his team were making sure that we're packaging and shipping bulk up to Amazon. They break it up and they sell it, or they ship it, pick, pack, and ship it for us. But when we do it, it's called FBM, and FBM is usually ground shipping. It could be UPS, FedEx Ground, it could be USPS. It's not Prime. So you'll see a shipping date, receive date. It's not Prime. Being Prime, your sales will go up 20, 30% for sure, almost always. But there is another feature and another medallion that Amazon actually wasn't approving any new ones. They've recently started approving new sellers, and it's called SFP, Seller Fulfilled Prime, and that gives you the ability to ship products from your own warehouse with the Prime medallion, the Prime badge on the product, so you're shipping it Prime, and the customers will see it as Prime, but you have to make sure you hit their metrics. And that means that a certain percent have to be overnight, a certain percent have to be 2 day. So there is a cost to that. And unless you have warehouses all over the US, it could be quite costly. So you have to measure that. Do you want to be in stock Prime and you don't have products at FBA? Then you might have to pay a bit more. So you just have to do the math on, does it make sense for you to do SFP, Seller Fulfilled Prime, until your products make it up to Amazon so you could plug that gap. It's really comes down to the math and if it's important enough. So
Right.
I just want to make sure I'm explaining that. Any other comments on logistics, warehousing, and any other tips and tricks for everybody?
Well, I mean, just to kind of add in there, when we're shipping these Prime products, I mean, and anything going, whether it's ground or express, Seller Central, Amazon will give you options. It tells you, hey, from FedEx, second day, overnight, UPS. It gives you the different carriers, the different options. So, obviously, we want to ship the most efficient way, the most cost effective way. So that's the best thing about Seller Central is they give you options to select certain carriers at the best rate. So that's something to keep in mind when you are shipping through their portal.
So now I wanted to talk about, and Vince, I'm sorry to orphan you out there, but we did last year. We did a survey on returns, and what we found is that it's the ugly part of the business, but it's a big part of the business. And what we learned from our survey that we did was that 52% of Americans actually plan to return gifts that they received, whether they didn't like the gift or it was the wrong color, the wrong size. And so about 2/3 of products that are purchased during the holiday as gifts come back if they're going to be returned. So you got 52%, and 2/3 of that 52% is going to be returned in that following week after Christmas. They trickle in after that. So, that's a bummer. What do you guys do with all these returns? I mean, I think this is a Vince Sunny discussion.
I mean, yes, as you mentioned, we do get a high level of returns. I mean, people return product for various reasons. I think we've all done that. People get gifts they don't like, or you purchase items that you don't necessarily want any longer. So, yes, there is a process, put in place for us to keep our customer service at a high level, ensure that the product gets returned accordingly, making sure that the product that is being returned is the actual product that was purchased to begin with. So there is a QC process put in place with our returns department. Um, so we have to stick to our guidelines when it comes to that. And then open cases with Amazon when there are instances where a product is returned that wasn't necessarily the product that was purchased.
Oh, we've seen that. Yep.
Yes, there's some very strange things that come in that sometimes are very mind-boggling. But again, we have to communicate this back to Amazon and ensure that we're getting the credit back for the correct product.
What's interesting is that people buy from Amazon because you can return things without, there's not much friction there. If you go to a store, especially if it's a mom and pop, there's usually a little friction. They don't want to take it back. Maybe they want to give you a little store credit. But with Amazon, it's pretty much a no questions asked. But this year, you're starting to see more people having to have restocking fees, and it could be from a little bit, could be from zero to a little bit to a decent amount of that purchase price. And as these are being added, people are getting more upset, and sometimes that'll lead to not the greatest reviews on your storefront, or it might even ding your product. So, I think you should try to understand and figure out, do you want to put a return fee on your product right now? If you don't have to, if you could live without doing it and you have an alternative way of selling that product once it comes back, I mean, I still recommend not to, but it is definitely a part of the business where people take advantage of this. But that's also why people buy from Amazon. And, it's like, what do you do? So I would be frictionless if I want to get more sales. And if it's a very expensive product, I might put some kind of restocking fee. But you're going to also have less sales. When people look into that, and you could probably get some pushback on your reviews. So,
Right.
weigh it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the customer always they input reasons as to why the product's being returned, and we go through, we read these comments. It allows us the opportunity to correct the situation and meet the customer's needs. So we want them to come back to our stores. We want them to purchase again. So the quicker we get the returns completed, the happier the customer is, and then hopefully they come back.
Cool. Yeah, and
And
I knew you could bring it up.
I was just going to say, in advance of the holiday season, one of the things we certainly try to do is make sure that we have the content optimized. And that doesn't just mean, making sure that we have, the best descriptions and things like that, but it means going through the reviews and looking what pain points that customers might have had in the past, and making sure that we cut that off ahead of the pass to minimize those returns that come back to us, whether it be the fit of a garment or installation guides, whatever they might be talking about in those reviews is a guide for how we should modify the content to make sure we're limiting what comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea for sure. And I think, I talked about this a few times, is that you should be crystal clear on what your product does, but also what it doesn't do. I think we're all marketers at heart. We all want to sell everything we can get, every sale we can. But if you wind up getting returns because you weren't being clear about what your product does and doesn't do, you're going to wind up getting bad reviews, which are going to wind up, haunting you and causing lower sales in the future. So, certain power products where I go overseas and it they've learned the vendors that make these, the OEMs that make these are pretty clear right now. This product is good for this, and they show the pictures. It's good for mobile phone, computer, but they put hair dryer, curling iron, and they put a big X through it. So they've learned already that these are not products that work with their power product, and you shouldn't use it. So they try to be crystal clear on their products beforehand, and that saves a lot of time, a lot of pain, and a lot of bad reviews and a lot of returns.
Yep.
So good to do that on your product
Okay.
listings for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, so Vince, what about, what can we expect for sales this year? I mean, is it going to be a good holiday or a bad holiday?
Yeah, so I think it's a tough one with the economic headwinds that we're facing just broadly across the country. The good news is Amazon's, had a strong sales season for us, especially with the two Prime Days as kind of batting practice for the holiday selling season. So we had the Prime Days in July, and then we had the Fall Prime Day event that just passed, where I believe they set record numbers during the Fall Prime Day. We typically try to anticipate a 1x to 3x lift during the holiday period. So whatever your inventory is, like Sonny was talking about prepping your inventory to go up, that's typically where we're looking at making sure that we've got enough volume at FBA well in advance of the holiday season, which kicks off pretty aggressively for Black Friday and that selling weekend through the Cyber Monday, but also carries through to those first couple weeks of December. So you kind of see that early spike for, I get some people call it the Cyber 5, and then it trails off as you get the shipping window for delivery as you get closer and closer to the holidays in December.
And what's interesting, if you were on Amazon and you were selling on Amazon during the Prime days, let's say the July one is bigger than the October one, how do you gauge what Black Friday and Cyber Monday time period should be? And although Prime Day is a big pop, Black Friday and Cyber Monday is still bigger. I've heard stories where they're not, but when I look, something like $13 billion was sold during the Prime days in July, and I think Amazon's expecting about $20 billion in sales for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So the activity is still greater, even with economic headwinds. For some reason, people are finding ways to buy, and maybe they'll buy lower ticket items, but there's so many different payment methods now that you can use on Amazon that you could pay over time, pay over 12 months, pay over 24 months.
Yep.
Right.
I think people will find a way to spend that money, and you should be there with your products. But I think the thing is also you need to be promotional, and not everybody wants to be promotional because there's only so much margin to go around. But I think you need to think this way, and I'm sure you do if you have these kind of products. If you have products that people will consume over and over again, whether it's something they buy once a week, once a month, once a quarter, this is the time to get customers. It'll be the lowest cost of you acquiring new customers. Even with the money you spend on advertising and the discounting, this is the time where you could really get a bunch of new customers into your product and get them to subscribe in these products, and then you'll get long-lasting customers. So the old adage of lifetime value is important to look at. So if you're a brand that has, and you're selling coffee products or cleaner products, anything that people reuse over and over again. I mean, Vince, you've lived through this before. This is the subscribe and save Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely the season for customer acquisition. And you talked a little bit about, the Prime Days versus the Cyber 5. I think A couple of things that play into that is, definitely during Prime Days, Amazon is incredibly promotional around their own products, where they have so many of the Amazon electronics and products like that that are highly promotional. But just given the legacy of Black Friday and Cyber Monday at retail, many of the core brands are promotional during this time period anyways. And so long as those promotions are being passed on to Amazon and other e-commerce marketplaces, that's where you see kind of the bigger adoption by the general consumer, where they know this is the promotional drive period for some of the biggest brands that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So, I mean, I talked about subscription type of products or products that people use over and over again, but even for other products where there's maybe accessories that could be sold with them, this is the time to sell the core product. So a lot of electronics products have lots of accessories that go with them. I've been into the photography category lately, and you'll see so many different accessories for photography. So selling that core product really leads to the aftermarket of all the other stuff that goes with it. So this is the time to add new customers and do it well. I mean, so Vince, when it comes to advertising, I mean, what should they be doing? What, should they be spending more, less, day parting, what?
Yeah, so I think you kind of touched on a pretty key point there at the end. I think you need to determine your budget ahead of time and you need to stick to your budget. I think the excitement of this high velocity sales period can get pretty exciting, but you need to carefully manage your budget that you're not spending against some of the other people that have a much bigger budget than you early. So that way you can capture as many sales as possible through the whole promotional period. So we encourage people to do, just like you said, the day parting and tight budget management, making sure that they don't spend more in the early days of the promotion than they anticipate and leave themselves with limited dollars to cover that into December shipping days, which are still very, very strong for the holidays.
So you could do paid advertising on Amazon. You could do off Amazon, Google and other advertising and put it to Amazon. And Amazon now, if you're the brand owner, you can get a percentage of that back. So you can get a 10% back on your advertising. So that helps cover some of the other costs that you have. So I think that's a good idea. But also, social media has become quite big, but the discounting is big, and taking it to price and making sure your buy box is really aggressive is good, but also couponing is a big deal. Any thoughts there, Vince?
I think all the tools can be leveraged. I do think Amazon's pretty prescriptive about their some of their higher visibility promotional placements. So you just need to look at the rules within Seller Central to make sure that your products are going to qualify with the discounting or the coupons that you're applying. I know they have look back periods where they want to make sure that the offers that they're presenting to their customers are truly aggressive and that you're not just operating on kind of a high-low or a short-term promotion that's not deep enough to really drive a bunch more engagement on their site.
So one big deal during the holidays that people maybe don't like to talk about because we don't like to admit that we have it, but a bunch of brands, a bunch of sellers, and I've talked to other sellers, have aged inventory, overstock. And during the holidays, since there's so much activity, this is the time to sell it. So, what I recommend to any of us is to look in our warehouses, look at our inventory sheets, see what's been sitting around for too long, and this is the time to convert it to cash. Even if you're going to take a bit of a hit on it, the longer you hold it, I don't believe it's going to the value is going to increase. So this is the time to move it quickly, and so you should be highly promotional and visible with this overstock, and this is the time to do it. I don't know, guys, what your thoughts on that, because I think we've seen some of that
For
ourselves.
sure. I would say, in addition to that, merchandising those products, tying them to a hero SKU will certainly help get them additional eyeballs. So if you have a way, let's say it's an older version of a newer product or an off color of a product that sells really well for you, you definitely want to tie those products together. I also would say, kind of in that same vein, definitely consider bundles. So where you have products where you can bundle and create multi-packs, this is an opportunity for you to create multiple ASINs, like you talked about people who are doing subscriptions, people who might be buying in bulk. This is a great season for that as well. So looking at all those merchandising tips and tricks in advance of the promotional period will definitely help you get some of that aged inventory moved.
So, and here's another tip that maybe people don't think about, and that is, do holiday sales apply to businesses? And the answer is kind of yes, kind of no, but companies buy at the end of the year. So, Vince, you lived through this one. Why would companies be spending money, and why would Amazon Business be an important place to be merchandising?
Yeah, so it's the end of the budget year for many, many companies. So many companies use this time period to close out whatever remaining budget needs that they have and make those final purchases on their 2023 budgets. So typically, if it's an annual fiscal for them, December's the end of that budget. Especially with smaller businesses, their purchasing and procurement people will start to look at the truly aggressive deals that they know will be out there for this drive period and start to look at what they could get with the last of their budget for the year.
So don't count out business. I mean, I think this is a good time to make sure that you're paying attention to your Amazon business account and you're merchandising your products there because, again, I think we all think consumer and we should, but this is a great time because businesses are going to be spending what budgets they do have. Some of them live with this use it or lose it mentality, and some of them just know they have the money available to spend and they want to spend it before it goes away and they have to start a new year with a blank slate. So I would think about that too.
For
Um,
sure, and your pricing strategy, right? So you talked about the merchandising, making sure that you're thinking through what your business pricing is as opposed to on the consumer side. So thinking through, you talked about, leveraging coupons and things like that to get promotional on the business side. Definitely those types of tactics will help you attract businesses during this end of year crunch.
so the holiday season is a interesting time of year. It's a busy
Mhm.
time of year. It's a great time. We talked about to clear aged inventory. It's a great time to acquire new customers. Even if you believe, Amazon owns those customers, you still have a relationship with your brand with those customers. And if you get them on a subscription program, they're going to continue to buy from you. If you have your own direct to consumer site, they're going to explore the brand and they're going to go and learn more about you. And you'll ultimately get them through your newsletter and maybe buying from your site directly too. So it's important to also have your own personal website or your Shopify or whatever you're using as a platform to be up and clean and going and singing. So make sure that your direct to consumer website is optimized. So it's a great time of year to move product in general, great time to get new customers, but you gotta have the products in stock to sell. So you make sure that you're getting it up to Amazon quickly. If you don't have it up at Amazon, then you gotta make sure that you have the ability to ship FBM so you're not out of the game completely. And if you have seller fulfill prime, does it make sense for you to give up some of that margin to make sure that you could be prime during the holidays? And these are things you got to think through. Um, we think about it every single day. It's really important, whether it's on holiday or off holiday. These are all really important things to us. And Amazon is complicated, and we're here to help brands navigate and grow on Amazon. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, um, let us know. You could find us at phelpsunited.com and you can reach out to Vince, myself, and Sunny on LinkedIn at any time. So please, with that, we're going to wrap up the show and I'll go around and get final thoughts from first from Vince and then from Sunny.
Absolutely. Great participating with you guys here today. I think just as a final thought, Amazon gives us a couple times a year to really get to brush off our listings, optimize our content, revisit our pricing and merchandising strategies. And obviously, the biggest one of those is upcoming. So, over the course of the next couple weeks, many, many businesses will get back into the black, which is, Black Friday. And I would just encourage you to kind of get out the old ABCs of merchandising and pricing and look at that ahead of this drive period.
Thanks, Vince. Sunny?
Yes, yeah, this has been great. I can be reached, as Adam said, with any questions. But coming from a warehouse perspective and managing the warehouse for a very long time, the best practice to have is cross training your employees, cross training your staff. departments get a little bit heavier as the holiday season comes in. When you have people cross-trained, it'll improve efficiency, it'll improve accuracy. Obviously, human error comes into play, but you want to minimize as many errors as possible. But having that cross-training implemented will really help overall with your products being shipped out.
Well, thank you guys. I mean, Amazon is an amazing platform. I mean, it's the biggest of all the marketplaces in the U.S. It could be incredibly lucrative, but could also be very intimidating and very complicated. So, let us know if you need help. But if you don't, have a great holiday season, and thank you for watching us today. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.